there, my name is Megan McCary, and today I'm doing my presentation on the United States' role in media freedom. I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about myself. I'm a junior mass communications major on a telecommunications track, and I have a minor in political science. One day I'm hoping to enter the world news or political news field. And I grew up watching news pretty much every night with my mother. It's always been something I've really enjoyed. Okay, so what is media freedom? Media freedom, or freedom of press, is the freedom of communication and expression through mediums, including various electronic media and published materials. So when you think about media freedom, originally you think newspapers or magazines back in the day, but now we have so many different forms of media and media expression, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the list goes on and on. But surprisingly, still there are countries that do not have the same media freedom that we do today. The United States was one of the first countries to gain their freedom of press. United States citizens were given freedom of press in the First Amendment of the Constitution, along with freedoms of religion, speech, assembly, and petition. This was granted to avoid government censorship or propaganda from dictating all forms of media within the country. The U.S. was a pioneering free press and influenced many other countries to adopt the media freedom they have. Now, while the U.S. may believe in freedom of press, not all countries agree with that. A large majority of non-Western countries do not have freedom of press. Many have partial freedom, but most have no freedom at all. Some of the strictest countries include China, Russia, North Korea, and most Middle Eastern countries. As you can see by this map, the green countries represent free press, so that's mostly Western countries, US, most of Eastern Europe. The yellow is partially free. You see a lot of that down in South America, but for the stark majority, you see most countries have no freedom at all, including countries like Mexico, most of Africa, Russia, China, etc. The list goes on. Okay, now we're going to discuss North Korea. This is one of the most government-controlled media sources in the world. Everything they create is to create a sense of love and worship for their leader, Kim Jong-un. This has been since the early days of North Korea founding and separating from South Korea. Recently, in 2014, they had media conflict with the U.S. Essentially, what happened was there was a movie created called The Interview by Seth Rogen and James Franco that depicted what would happen if the U.S. government wanted to assassinate Kim Jong-un. North Korea naturally did not like the reaction or did not want the movie to be released, so they hacked Sony and threatened Sony that if they released the movie, they would attack the U.S. Essentially what ended up happening was the U.S. reaching out to North Korea and placing sanctions on them as a result of them hacking Sony. Okay, so lastly we're going to talk about the Middle East. Historically, the Middle East has been known to have the least amount of media freedom in the world. But as citizens slowly start to take back their countries, they again have an opportunity to let their voice be heard, and they have the option to gain some of the democratic freedom Western countries have. So this could include freedom of press. Their historic opposition, the government's historic opposition, has included many U.S. reporters and journalists being kidnapped or killed in the Middle East. This is kind of a protest for them to show how they do not like Western culture and kind of our beliefs as a country. Okay, so what can the U.S. do next to encourage media freedom throughout the world? Personally, I believe that they can continue to educate and encourage citizens all around the world that freedom of press is the starting point that leads to all other freedoms. So your freedom to religion, your freedom to free speech, everything is connected through freedom of press. Another thing they can continue to do is place sanctions on countries that are trying to infringe on our press freedoms. Yet again, going back to North Korea, that was a big occurrence, and it was good that they placed the sanction on North Korea because it showed that we were not going to have tolerance for them trying to control what we put out there as a country. And we can continue to encourage our citizens to take advantage of their right to free press. So encouraging students and anyone pretty much that sharing your thoughts on the internet, writing, creating media is a great thing to do, and it's a great way to practice your right of free press. And that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation on media freedom and freedom of press. Have a great day.